It's still nighttime.
Yeah.
Yeah, our daylight savings time later in the year causes the sun to come up later in the morning. Oh, we have a longer sunlight pattern in the evenings.
So dark right now, you can't see anything.
So it doesn't light up till about 6:40 or so now. But we got our lights. We're ready to go. On this ride, Paul and I left Northampton, rolled into the woodland. After picking up Team RR, went down Research Forest, all that's on film. We took Honia, Egypt to Grand Lake Estates. Went out to Keenan Cutoff Road. But when we got on Spring Branch Road, there was a crash. The dog cut off Dave, but he wasn't badly injured. So we continued. A lot of attacks into Bogville. Then we left the group and we went into the forest on Bethel Road. Went past Dacus, took the guerrilla route, came down 149, back into Montgomery. We stopped at Taco Corner, refilled, put some ice in our stockings and inserted it in the back of our neck. It was hot by then. And then we finished the ride by rolling back into Honia on 2854 to Fish Creek. It was a very, very refreshing return because the south wind had picked up by then, slowed us down, but it kept us nice and cool. I think you would love the clips. It's 7:06. We got there right on time as they were rolling out of the parking lot.
Look at that
We
guy.
hit Research Forest. Yeah, that driver speeding down the road. That's what I was telling Rick. I said I could not be a police officer because I don't know if I'd have the patience, because when they get stopped, they don't want to give the officers an attitude. You want to break the law. When they catch you, own up to it. He's flying down the road, and you know they patrol in the woodlands pretty aggressively. So it's just a matter of time before they pick him up. That's what Rick and I are talking about up there. Just kind of shooting the breeze early in the ride. It's very nice. It's 22 Celsius. Nice and cool, but it's supposed to heat up to about 33 Celsius, like about 96, 97, something like that. By noon or so, by about 1:30. But if you have enough fluids, and coming back, we hit the south wind, so it was very comfortable. I always wear sunblock on my arms, 30 SPF, copper tone, they call it, the brand I use. It's kind of nice. It's not greasy.
You know, our HOA pays for all of the...
So early in the ride, everybody's just kind of chatting about different things.
That wasn't me, unfortunately.
Mark had announced that we were going to do Spring Branch Road again, but he was going to turn back at Taco Corner. So I'm not sure how far they ended up going, but once we got out there, we felt pretty good, so we decided we were going to do the forest. And so we did a longer ride. We didn't plan before we got out there how far we were going to go. You want to use the early part of the ride. If you didn't put any fuel in the tank, you could take a gel, eat something light before the ride gets really hard. You don't want to eat solid stuff when you're riding hard, because then it takes more energy to digest, and you need that to ride. So I only do gels when I'm riding hard, but early on, or if I'm doing steadier rides, then I'll definitely do the solid stuff. You can't just do only gels on a very long ride. So I kind of roam the bunch early in the morning to kind of greet people. I'm gonna ride up in a bit to Mark and them. I saw Scott. When we got there, Scott greeted me in the parking lot. and he hadn't been here. He was here last week, but he hadn't been riding with us consistently. So I'm gonna ride up, and then Scott's gonna tell me that Mark accused him of doping because he was able to keep up with us last week, even though he hadn't been riding. So, and you know, the rides are different. Last week was easier than this week. This week ended up being more intense. There were more attacks, but still, I just told him, I said, well, you know, the roads are everywhere. He doesn't have to ride here to get in shape. That's what we're talking about. I'm right up there with them. We're riding 3 abreast pretty much, because one of them is on the shoulder. So I go and greet everybody, because when the ride starts, after a while, you don't really get to see everybody. The group breaks up into different levels. So after chatting with them, I think I start to roll up. I'm just riding at my pace, and I end up between the group, and there are a couple of riders. It's Dave and Bob are up the road. I guess they took off earlier than the group out of the parking lot. But just kind of rolling to kind of get warmed up. The road goes up here. And by warmed up, I mean your first hard effort is kind of like you cleaning out the cobwebs, per se. So if you're doing a very short, fast ride, you want to warm up intensely. On a long ride, you really don't need to warm up. Just kind of roll. So I'm between this group and a couple of riders up there at this point. Just kind of riding at a mild effort. We're doing about 18 miles per hour.
What's up, Mark? Good morning, man.
I don't like to ride on those cracks that you see between this pavement and the asphalt. You gotta be careful, because sometimes there's a little bit of a lip, as well as there can be some gaps that can trap your
I
wheel.
don't know yet. We're gonna make it as we go, depending on how we feel.
What Paul was telling Rick there, people like to ask, what are we doing on the ride? And we don't really know until we get out there. That's what Paul was telling him, that we'll make it up as we go based on how we feel. Because sometimes we'll go, and if it's just really, really hot, we decide, okay, we're going to roll back a little earlier or do something shorter. But on this ride, we ended up doing close to 6.5, 7 hours. You know, actual riding time, I think. So Rick ended up asking me the same question that he just asked Paul. And I told him, I said, I think we're going to do about 6 hours. You know, nothing set in stone. We just ride. Especially on Saturday, we have the morning available, so we just got to make the most of it. We leave early, as you saw. We leave before the sun is up. And we exhaust the morning, because in the summer, you don't want to be out there 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's just too hot. That's Randy up there on the left. He brought a new bike. I think it's a Velo P3. Velo has all kinds of bikes. I'm familiar with the P5 TT bike, but he's got a P3, and that's a TT bike also. I'm up ahead, and I think we get to this intersection just as the light flips to green for us.
One of those guys kind of smells like bacon.
It is bacon.
So we hit the green light here. There's a car coming on the left, and on these roads are very narrow, so I try to give them a lot of room. In a little bit, I'm going to drift to the right. I'm looking back to make sure it's clear, and then I move over to the right. I decided to put on some gloves on this ride. I'm wearing my old school gloves with they've got like, it's almost like a knit.
Yeah, he asked me again.
Yeah, we're talking about Rick. Rick asked both of us the same question, like, how far are we going? You know, it's like, we don't know. We just roll out. We just ride based on how we feel. You know, you don't need to set anything in stone. I mean, it's not like a grand fund or anything. We're just going out for a ride.
How far are you going today?
So it's just kind of. So it varies every week. We don't do the same thing every week.
Yeah, I did too.
So we're going through the stop sign as a unit, as a train. Yeah, I'm telling Paul about some meal, a restaurant my wife and I found in our area that makes really good entrees, very flavorful. So I'm telling him about it. Paul and I live a few minutes from each other.
Yeah.
We're in the same area in Spring.
There is another place that makes the same one, FO something. Right, right by.
So we share ideas about different restaurants, different entrees. He told me about a place called Mod Pizza that does a lot of interesting kind of gourmet style pizza.
Try this. Different level. Okay, they're really good. So Melissa doesn't like them. Wow. The flavor. Like that, I can leave the table and I don't feel greedy.
Yeah.
We're approaching the FM 2978, the open road. Yeah, Paul's bike developed some kind of noise on this ride. Well, it's been doing it on and off. It's intermittent. We've resolved it. We found out what it was. But you will hear it probably later in the ride. I'll point it out. Your bottom bracket needs to be periodically overhauled, depending on how you ride, how often you ride, and how much you ride in the rain. Anywhere from 6 months to a year, you got to get your bottom bracket and your hubs basically overhauled, get the bearings re-greased. The more frequently you do that, or the more consistently you do that, the less chances of you needing new bearings. I told him to let's go because you got to stay close. What he's talking about, catching the light. So part of the group ends up catching the red back there. So I told him, I said, yeah, what happens when you do that now? These guys up here are still riding, say, at 18, 19 miles an hour. And then you got to do 23, 24 to catch them. So you end up expending energy unnecessarily when you don't pay attention. You will hear us talk about it. So we're waiting for them, but we're not stopped. We're still kind of rolling. You see, like 15 miles an hour. That's what I'm telling Paul. It's like, I think I tell him in a little bit, like, you can't be falling back because you pay for it later. Every amount of energy you use, you got to pay the tax. See, that's what I'm telling them. I said, so now they're gonna have to ride at, say, 23, 24, because we're riding right now at, say, 16 or 17 miles an hour. See, you can't see them. There they are. They're coming around the curve. So now they're going to expend some energy that they could have used later in the ride. So if you're riding with a group and let's say you don't want to work too hard, you got to stay close and be alert. So every ounce of energy you use in your body is a finite amount of energy. So you have to be particular about the timing of when you expend that energy. Because cycling is about timing. Really, even track is about timing. A lot of sports. It's when you go that matters. If you sprint before the finish line, you're not going to win. So they're all back here, but they had to work to catch up. So all we did was we soft pedaled a bit and dropped the pace a little bit. You would hear me tell them, let's do a pace line. There's no reason to be spread out all over this road. It's too narrow. Let's get a line going and get to the business of riding. So everybody's kind of lining up, but one or two riders continue to hang out on the left. And then they're hanging out on the left. I think it's Randy and another guy. But then they continue to look back for traffic. So why bother? I think Randy is doing that because he's on a time trial bike. That's probably why. So he's continually looking back for the other road users. On a road like this, it's best to ride where you see I'm riding, especially if you're riding alone. So the drivers can see around you, but they have to move over to pass you. You want them passing you with some room. Do not ride on the edge. Rick is going to tell me in a little bit that when he rides solo, he rides on the edge of the road a lot. Because you see where Rick is? You shouldn't ride there. Because that shoulder is going to end in maybe 10 feet. And if there were cars coming, now you're stuck there. So what happens is he's also dealing with the reflectors. You will hear me tell him, you're the only one there. Because he's going to point at the reflectors. Then I would tell him, we're all using the road. You're the only one there. See? I told him, I said, you're the only one riding there, Rick. Everybody else using the road. He gave me thumbs up. And then he explains to me that I'm just used to that because when I ride solo, that's where I ride. So I told him, you shouldn't be riding on the edge of the road. I told him, I said, use the road so you don't hit those reflectors. Then he tells me he rides there because when he rides alone, since he's mostly riding alone, he rides on the edge of the road. I told him you should not ride on the edge of the road when you ride alone because then the drivers will skim by your elbow. So that's what we talked about before we started this descent. You don't have to ride on the edge of the pavement. You just have to ride as far right as is practical and safe. And that's your judgment. You have the right to use that road. Whether the drivers are ignorant of that fact or not, that's their issue. Ignorance is not an excuse. I just drift to the left because I'm descending faster than everybody else. I'm not pedaling. And then I drift right back to the same position I was in, knowing that there were cracks on the right. You saw where I stayed because I'm familiar with this road. I like this road. think this is where he's telling me about how he likes to ride on the edge of the road. That's why I told him, no, you should never ride on the edge of the road where it's unsafe. Pick a spot and hold it so they know what you're doing. They added this new pavement. They patched that section, and the water has washed the edges away. It used to be a lot smoother. Now it's a bit of a lip there. That's why I stood up. I'm looking down to see what gear I'm in because the gear just feels easy this morning. So I'm trying to verify what I'm riding in. It turns out to be like a 5319. I had good legs on this ride. This road will start going up in a bit. You will see my watts go up. He said dogs, right. The dogs are in their yard. They were not coming on the road. They were just barking and they were shielded. So I'm not sure why he called that, but I just glanced at them. We don't have problems with dogs on this road. Honia, Egypt is a very busy road. If you got dogs and you live here and they're running out, they won't live very long. This road, this is not Spring Branch Road. That's so much quieter. This road is not very quiet, but it's not super busy either. But it's not a road to play on. I'm not sure what Robert's talking about. He's always talking when we're riding. Once I get to the business of riding, I don't like to do too much talking. So I'm not sure what he's talking about, but we're all laughing. I'm gonna drift a little behind Rick, but the cars behind us, there were like 2 or 3 of them. They ended up just staying behind us until we get to the neighborhood. It turns out that they're going to the same place we're headed. Paul got a good shot here of the cars behind us. We're moving at about 18 miles an hour, 18 to 20 miles an hour. I'm riding a 5319 at this point. When I train during the week, I use heavier gears. And I do different kinds of workouts to where my body gets used to doing a huge amount of work, so that on the weekends I can either go longer or go harder without really, I guess, injuring myself per se. Because you've got to train yourself to where you can tolerate and acclimate to the efforts you go into. Do. You don't want to come to a group ride to do something brand new. So I try to train harder than what I do with the group, because you're sitting in. You can see right here, I'm in zone 1. So when I'm training solo, I'll be in a higher zone. But I'm in zone 1 because I'm sitting in the draft. The group dynamics. Not zone 1 to zone 2. I'm entered zone 2 now. At about 140, I'm in zone 2. So this is endurance pace. Start to dodge those reflectors using my hips. Looking for smooth pavement there. I do that a lot when I ride solo also. Always just working on handling. You need to play with the bike to be comfortable with it. So as we turn, somebody says, let the cars by. So I go to the left to let the cars go in. And some of the riders don't, but I stay over there in the middle because those cars that were following us are coming in here. So when Paul and them go in, they go to the right and those cars go by. You'll hear somebody say car back.
Car back.
Those were the cars that were behind us. That's Dave on the left there who ends up hitting the dog. I'm just glad that he just let the crash happen. There was nothing he could do. The crash happened before he could even do something, because when you try to stick your arm out or do something, that's when you end up breaking your clavicle. So he flipped and somersaulted, and the crash was over before he knew what was going on. As a result, the back of his helmet hit the road, had a little nick on his knee. Other than that, he was fine. You know, probably sore the next day, because whenever you crash, you pull muscles you don't use that all the time, that often. I thought Paul was on my wheel. I don't want to slow down, so I'm just riding, because there are riders up the road. I don't want to slow down. Every time we get in this yard, people want to act like it's a timeout or whatever. We're here to ride. Let's go. So that's why you see me go, and I'm just going to go ahead and start riding. I don't think you're going to hear this, but Robert on the left there with the blue jersey will come by and then say, "Are we riding today?" I say, "Yeah, we're always riding." That's Robert. So I sit up there, get a rhythm. I'm just riding by myself. I have already passed Bob. Bob was up front. I think Dave is ahead. And Rick gets on my wheel. When I go over those dips, I just put my weight on the pedal. I don't have to get up. I basically put one leg down like when you're cornering and weight the pedal. Rick comes around, he lifts the pace, I just sit on it. So now we're riding instead of chatting. They can talk on their own time. It's time to ride. So we've got gaps in the group because people that wanted to chat, they're further back. They're going to have to work to come up here. We're doing 23 miles an hour. So now they're working to get up there because they've been messing around back there. That's how you waste your energy. So Paul waits and gets on a wheel here, I believe. Yeah, right here, he gets in the line. So when you hang back, you better make sure you got something left to get up there, or it's best to stay vigilant so you're not expending energy unnecessarily, because every time you close a gap, you've got to work. So that's Dave on the right there with the light blue jersey that's going by here, and Paul is going by here. So I'm pulling now. I didn't realize that, but I'm pulling. As Rick pulled for a while, then he pulled off, and I got to the front just to keep the pace going. It's a big group. We got a lot of people that can pull, so I don't think I stayed up there very long. So Randy's on his P3. So he's staying out of the pace line because he's on those bars. That's why we've been seeing him on the left. The problem with that is you're hitting the wind, you're punching a hole in the wind. It takes a lot of work. You'd probably be better off sitting on the last rider and leaving a slight gap. The pace picks up here as the road goes up. I just pedal harder. I think it's somewhere around here where Mike on the left that started talking about, oh, I like the green you're wearing and the military green and it's this. Like I said, I don't want to talk. We're riding. You can see, I don't know what I said. I think I end up telling him, when you look good, you feel good. That's what he's talking about. I like that. You look fast. He said something about you look fast. I'm always fast. So yeah, I thought I said when you look good, you feel good. But I'm not paying attention to him. I'm concentrating on the wheel in front of me. I'm concentrating on the guys that are riding, and that's what you need to do. We're riding. That's what matters right now. You don't want to be chatting too much. The pros do that nonsense a lot. That's why they always crash. They spend more time chatting when the pace is kind of tranquil, and they end up having all kinds of mishaps. So you always need to be vigilant when you're around other cyclists. Don't let your guard down. You want to relax, do it when you're riding solo. So even if you're having a conversation, keep your eyes forward. Watch what's in front of you, because your most vulnerable wheel is the front. Pace picks up again. Road goes up. I stay in the same gear and just put the power down. You can see the power jumping all over. It will go 5 something when you initially start on 3 something, 2 something. The power fluctuates because the grade fluctuates. So the power you need to maintain that speed varies as the terrain and the wind and where you are in the pace line change. I'm looking ahead of these guys. I stay on the right here. Mark kind of lets a gap open. I'm keeping my eye on it. He drifts to the right, so I move left. Mike is there. You always got to be aware of other riders. And so we go around him. This is where Scott dropped his bottle last week. I go to the right here, and I don't believe I'm thinking about passing them right now, because I realize, okay, we're going to come to the stop sign, then the road's going to kick up. I'm pointing there's a hole there on both sides of the lane. It's like there's a depression in the pavement. And right here, I go ahead and just bridge up. As soon as we go over that bump, I just bridge up. That's how you have to train. You got to be able to kick. It may look easy, but it's not, because I'm going up the hill and we're riding here. You can see I'm right at a sweet spot. I've been sitting in zone 2. I've passed zone 3. I'm at sweet spot. So the effort is up. I go ahead and lean the bike. I'm ready to ride. This part of the road goes up, and at the end there's a big sprint. So I want to be in the top 10 riders. At this point, we have gaps. There are quite a few people that have not been able to hold this pace. So the group has split up. I go ahead and unzip my jersey here because there's not a whole lot of wind as we go up. We're generally headed north, and this time of year the wind comes from the south, southeast, behind and to the right.
Mark, I'm on your right, man.
You want to come up?
No, I'm okay here.
So Paul tells Mark that he's on his right, but Mark wanted to know if he wanted to come up. Because when Mark is riding, sometimes he'll move left, right. He moves a lot. So Paul's just letting him know he was on the right. What I do when I follow riders that move around a lot, I just make sure I don't overlap. So I don't care what they do. And when I do get alongside them, I get alongside like Paul did and let them know where I am. So they know I'm already there. That's why he told him he's on his right. The road's going up here. It's at 4%. That's why I stayed up front. If you're up there, you can give your effort, I guess, when you need to, meaning early enough to where you're not making up ground. When you way back, after the people at the front have crested the climb, you're still climbing. But this size, right now we're about probably 10 riders. Let's see, this is 2, 3. Yeah, so this is a good percentage to be. I want to be in the top third of the group. I'm probably in third position because I've been pulling, so I'm sitting in right now. I have been pulling back there. The other people put their nose in the wind. There are a couple of guys in this group that like to sprint up. There's a climb coming, and it's pretty steep. It gets there in a hurry, and it's long. If you go early, you pay the price. And they always misjudge that climb. They always take it for granted. As soon as we start to descend, I'm going to put my bike in a large gear, probably 100 inches. And just leave it there, because that's a power climb, that's a power sprint. You don't go very fast, it's torque. So this is the guy who hits the dog right here on the left. That's Dave. So right about here, we start to descend. I put it in a 53.12. I think it's a 4 or 5% climb. It's a bit over geared, but I really wanted to work my legs. My legs felt great, and I wanted to push myself without raising my heart rate too much. Because this is where they go. They're already going. And I go, look at my watts. I have to do like 1,000 watts to make up the ground. Then once I get up there, I kick it up some more. And I'm gone right there. And I only got 85, 86 RPM. So I wasn't really sprinting. That is a power sprint. That's not a speed sprint. So they're different. It's an uphill sprint. It's strength. So with a speed sprint, I'd be hitting 150 RPMs. And you hear Mark. I do a U-turn over there.
Looks like you knew what you were doing on that.
He said it looked like you knew what you were doing on that. So what is the implication? Does that mean that other people didn't know what they were doing? Mark just says what's on his mind. He doesn't even censor it. So I thanked him. I said, thank you, you know. And it was a hard sprint, but it was a low RPM power sprint.
It's still 28 miles in an hour.
You're turning here. X watts at X RPM.
Listen to that guy downplay 28 for an hour.
You see some of this compulsion?
There you go, man. You can.
That was hard.
So Paul gave me the camera here. I'm on camera duty now. The gate is open. I go ahead and zip up my jersey. I had unzipped it for that climb because it was hot. So Dave's greeting me. The first time we come alongside each other since the ride started. So if I had been closer to them on that sprint, I wouldn't have had to go as hard as I did. But by being behind, I could push myself more.
John and Craig are really far back.
I know, and they probably don't know the code.
Yeah, they're talking about a bunch of guys in like the second or third group that are back in there. I mean, I know the code to get through. So some riders, yeah, I believe Randy's one of them that decide to wait for them or go back for them. We go ahead and ride because we decide to wait at the Keenan cutoff junction that comes up in about probably 3 kilometers, I would say. So I've got the camera here at the junction. We're going to switch and put the camera on a mount on the bike. So we're trying different things just to see how it would come out. It ended up being really, really good. So we're gonna start using that and working that into our handheld stuff. I'm telling Paul that I put it in a 5312 for that sprint. I wanted to just work on
Power sprint.
yeah, strength as opposed to hitting my aerobic capacity. So I hit about 80 something RPMs. But it started to ride here, so in a little bit I just go ahead and ride up. We're doing about 23 or 24 miles per hour, getting up to speed here. So Greg had been down the road while I guess one of the people that got through early. I get in the draft and just kind of settle in. Then pick up the pace again. You can see my watts go up. Every time you put force in there to get up to speed, initially requires a good wattage output, and then once you're cruising, it drops a bit. You can hear the wind. It's right at the top of tempo zone 3, getting close to the sweet spot. Moderate effort. see the road in the distance. It's going to go down and it's going to kick up before we get up to Keenan Cutoff. It's a descent here. There's -2 mile descent. It continues the descent. So when we're coming back the other way, this is a good hill to work on. That's why we like to come through here. Roads are quiet, well paved, and challenging. The road starts to go up. Mark was just letting us know that he's coming in between us, but he's not passing. So I just gave him room. I stayed to the right. I suspected that we'd be waiting on the rest of the riders that are off the pace at this corner.
Go on left. Far back.
Left turn. Let's wait up.
So Mark tells us to wait up, and this is where we stop. And I used that opportunity to take the camera and mount it on the bike. Right here, the camera is mounted on the bike, and we're headed west on Keenan Cutoff. It felt really weird to not have the camera in my hands and I'm carrying the camera. And so I periodically continued to look at it, make sure it was level and everything, but we were using it for the first time in that position, and it turns out that the view is very good. We have the settings set up to give us a wide view, and it really works. So while I was riding, I kept making sure I was either on the right or the left, but it doesn't look like that's necessary. So we're going to get a mount and put that on Paul's bike from time to time as well, to give us a different option. Always trying to improve what we're doing. Continuous improvement, that's the way to do it. Whatever you do. It's almost like a eye level here. It's really neat. I wasn't sure how it would come out, but when I saw the clips, I was very pleased. The mount is at like the top tube level, so it's perfect, because if you were seated, it would be right at your eye level. That's why I like this shot. Sitting a little to the right because I wanted to make sure that I didn't just get the person directly in front of me. That's one reason. The second reason is it gives me an idea of what's happening up the road. You see how Paul stood up without any change in his momentum. Paul had given a warning about the runner that you saw walking in the grass, that he had been running, but he stopped to walk at that point. You always want to let your group know if you have pedestrians so that somebody does not inadvertently get too close to them. Because not everyone sees everything. So you got to pass that down the line in a group. I'm not pedaling at this point. We're going downhill. It's about a -2% descent. So we're pretty much rolling at 44K, 41K now. Now I'm pedaling. Now this is a pace line. Sitting in there at 22, 23 miles an hour, and I'm in zone 2. The benefit of the draft. I've got my cadence up because I know Spring Branch Road is coming. I had just pushed my legs a few kilometers back there in that sprint, so I'm letting them recover. You always have to be thinking about how you feel, what's to come, and you make the necessary adjustments. Just beautiful pavement out here. The roads out here are even better than in the city. Because we're going downhill, I'm not drafting very closely. There's not a whole lot of effort required to hold this speed, so I stay a little further behind. I'm going to be turning in a few yards. The FM 149. Outside of Magnolia in Montgomery County, heading north in about 3/4 of a mile, probably about a kilometer, maybe a kilometer. About a kilometer, we're going to be turning left. I back off so I can see the road because we're going to be descending pretty fast in a little bit. The shoulder's narrow. I want to make sure I avoid debris at speed. That's why I back off. It's not that hard here. You can see it says -1. So it's a slight downhill. Then it increases. We're going to be going really fast. See that rider got on the road. I don't know if I used the road or not. I think I stayed here. That's why I stayed behind, so I could see clearly. When you're going very fast, you can't depend on somebody pointing out stuff. So everybody starts coming around. I don't worry about it because I figure that's just a waste of energy. We're gonna have to slow down to turn left, and you'll see I'll be right there. So you gotta save your energy. Like I said, everything has to do with timing. It ends up turning out that Rick, who just went up the road, is not turning left, he's going straight. So he's not even doing the ride that we're doing. I checked the mirror, even though he says car back, there's a car back there, but he sees us and he backs off because he sees these riders getting in the road and signaling that we're going left. So I get on the road and we turn. Rick in the distance that is going straight into downtown Montgomery. And you can see all the energy they expended, we're all right here. So you got to pick your spots. I think I end up going around Scott here and moving up on Paul's wheel. Now we're aware that these dogs are out here, but over the last couple of months, they have not been coming out, running around. There was a black and a white dog that used to chase us out here. But for the last couple of months, we hadn't seen them. It turns out that the owner has been keeping the gate, there's Dave moving up to the front. The owner had been keeping the gate closed and happened to open it today for a family member that was picking up something. And the dog, we happened to come by at that time, the dog ran from under the house when he saw us. They're just chasing something that's moving faster than they are. That's what dogs do. So right around here, that's the house on the right there. That's where the dogs live. And I'm always watching the road. Doesn't matter. That's the dog. He darted out from under the house. I mean, he's coming at speed. So I yell and try to get him to slow down. But then when he froze, he was in front of Dave. And Dave goes down. So I told Dave to kind of take it easy, don't walk, because he's trying to walk.
Slow down. Check yourself.
You all right?
Hold on, shoot.
Yeah, I told him to, yeah.
Get these dogs running all over the damn road.
That was a hard fall.
So he hit the back of his head, so the helmet is cracked.
Woo!
You're missing sunglass lines too. Anybody see that?
Well, his frame's broken, so it's not going to fit in anyway.
Mark's talking about the sunglasses frames, not his bike. The bike was fine.
You all right, David? Where'd you hit? He hit everywhere. Yeah, everywhere. He rolled. He rolled, did a flip, landed on his head.
Car, get off that, road.
Watch out, Robert! Car!
Well, the good thing was you flipped. So
Yeah, rolled, yeah.
Yeah, you didn't stick.
Bike okay, guys?
We're
Yeah, when you flip like that and you're not trying to break your fall, that's when you get off okay because you're moving. And his clavicle was never impacted because he didn't stick his hand out. When you stick your hand out, then you know.
Dogs are a known hazard here.
It's the owner, it's not the dog. Yeah, they need to.
Yeah, it's not the dog that's at fault.
There's a white dog.
So 6 minutes later, we're heading out. Yeah, it's you have to secure your pets, and they do. I mean, when they about 3 months ago, those dogs will always chase us around on this road, and I guess people complain enough.
Things wearing helmet is dorky. So it's a hole in your head. That's real dorky.
Yeah, we're talking about those who think helmets are dorky. Yeah, a hole in your head will change your mind. He hit the back of his head, and that helmet did the job. So he's gonna have to replace the helmet. You can't reuse them. Once they crack like that, they'll compromise. Get a new one. You're supposed to replace them every 3 years anyway, because the foam deteriorates over time. You know, related to how you store them. Keep them out of a hot car and stuff that lasts longer. But that's a recommended life. I'm just glad he was not hurt. Seriously. I mean, he's got a little nick on his knee. That was about it. You know, didn't have any major road rash. And that's why it's good to wear cycling jerseys and lycra, all these slippery things that we wear. That's the reason. You know, let the people who don't know make their comments and their snickers and their sneers, but wear the proper stuff, because when you hit that pavement, if you have lycra and other things, you can slide. That's like an extra layer of skin. A cotton shirt will not protect you the same way. So there's a reason cyclists wear what we wear. So don't worry about the people who are not in the know. The more spectacular the crash looks, chances are the better off you come out of it. Is those simple looking crashes that end up injuring you because you hit in one spot.
He basically ran over the dog.
Yeah, the dog was just as scared. I mean, he panicked and then ran back in the yard. I don't think he was that hurt. I hope not, but he looked okay. So he was scared. You know, it's like he didn't know what he was chasing or what he was doing. So that's why, you know, owners have to take you. You want to own a dog, you need to be responsible. Keep the dog secure, or get the what's his name? Cesar Milan, the dog whisperer, to work with you so the dogs can stop chasing people on the street. No bad dogs, just bad owners. So, but these guys have tried. I mean, so the owner came out. Well, a relative of the owner was there, came out and apologized and talked to us. And I thought that was classy. So that was nice. So we basically went back and figure we'd do it again. This is like part 2 of the ride. So we're approaching the this 9% climb on Spring Branch Road. And we ended up riding it fairly mildly, I guess, after the crash. The first part of it anyway, and then all hell breaks loose. So right here we're on the climb. If you look at the grade and you see my watts going up, usually it's like 7 something, but this time it's 5 something. And Bob starts talking about his bottom bracket. I'm thinking, what the heck am I discussing your bottom bracket? That's Dave on the left there. He had a bottom bracket installed, and well, I was telling him, he said, well, the bottom bracket was pressed on one side and screwed in on the other. I'm like, you know, I don't think he knew what his stuff. So I ended up telling him that, well, Rob will take care of it. Rob is the mechanic he uses. Then he said Rob installed it, and I'm thinking, then why are we talking about it? Go talk to Rob if you got questions. Yeah, that's what I thought. I said, I'm sure Rob can figure it out. I don't come on these rides to talk shop. It's time to ride. He's still talking about it. I end up telling him I don't know, and then I just ride up.
I don't know.
This is not the time to talk shop. When you come to the shop, we'll talk shop. This is a bike ride. Let's ride. I just ride away. So we didn't hammer that first climb, but I'm watching for gaps. In a little bit, Dan is going to be chatting with someone. I don't know if it's Randy or who. He starts talking with someone. And then the guys up front starts to drift up the road. I think he's talking with Scott. That's Scott on the right. So yeah, they start to chat. And I'm watching the gap between Randy and the guy in the red in front of Randy up there. That's where I've got my attention. Because we never ride this road civilized. We always ride it in anger. So they start to move, and I'm going to move up, and then Mike S5 here is going to say, go get him. Right here, see my watts going up a little bit? I think in a little bit I'm going to ride up because they start to pull away. The road's going slightly up. You can see the distance between Dan and even Mike Weingraves growing. And so I've got my eye on that. Right here I make my move because there's too much of a gap. I hit almost 40K. I want to get up there quickly. And this is where we start to push the pace. The road's going slightly downhill here, but it's going to kick up. It's going to level and then kick up. Road's going up right here. Look at the watts, 670. I'll move left, and the pace, we go a little harder here. I want to keep riders in front of me because I'm aware that the camera is mounted, so I don't really want to ride off. But right here, Mike is sitting there like messing around, freewheeling. I go ahead and drift around him and ride up to Dan. I'm right at sweet spot. We've got several gaps on the road at this point because we're really moving here. The road's flat. I ride up to Dan. I sit on his wheel closely. The road's gonna kick up. See it jump from -1 to 2%. This guy's giving everything he's got. I mean, he's not really going that hard. Well, he's not going that fast, but I'm sure he's going hard. I sit a little to the right because I know Dan's gonna pull off to the left if he does go around this guy. So I stay a little on his right, and he knows I'm there. I'm not that close to him. I leave enough room so if he moves sideways, there'll be room. Now right there, this guy is out of steam. And I drift back behind Dan as we go by. You can't do it by speed. So even though we're doing just 20 miles an hour on this stretch because of the grade and the wind. And then the road levels off. Right here is like slight downhill. It's gonna get flat. And we'll probably hit like 40, 41K or something like that. There you go. Yep. That's why you can't train the speed. It's effort that matters. So now I'm at the bottom of zone 4. Just getting out of sweet spot. I'm just sitting in. And you see my heart rate go down as I get closer to Dan. Then pull off, I go ahead and pull through. Then I realize, oh, the camera's on the front. I don't want to sit up here too long. I will take a short pull and then I'm gonna motion to Paul after I pull to the left and Paul doesn't come through, and I go ahead and motion that he needs to roll through. Right here, I pull to the left and I motion. Because when I pull to the left, I expected him to come through, but I don't think he was aware. So when I pull to the left, I motion and then he comes through. Right there. So he pulled off. I'm going to get right back because Mark left a gap. And he tells me I can come in if I want. I just slip back in. I want to stay near the front because I want to keep the effort high. But right there, Robert dropped this guy. Robert went so hard, he dropped this guy, so he pulled away. But he really can't sustain that. That's the thing I'm talking about. I'm holding about 400 and some watts, and I'm sitting on this guy gave up right here. He couldn't close the gap. So I ended up just jumping. If you see my watts, 450, then it dropped. I opened the gap. I didn't pull anybody. I'm coming here alone. I ride up to him. He sees me coming, but there's nothing he can do about it. The train has left the station. I'm in race pace now. So when I come by, as soon as I get to him, I move to the right and go by. Because he's not really firing. I'm new momentum coming in. So he jumps on my wheel. The road's gonna kick up here. I'm gonna stand. You're gonna see the camera swing right here. I stand to mix up the pace. I don't want him to get comfortable back there. I lift it and mix it up just a bit. You don't have to go very hard. Just mix it up. We're not at the end yet, so you don't want to go. I'm not going full gas. I'm in the middle of zone 4. So I sit back down expecting someone to come around. Nobody comes around. So I just keep the effort. You hear me downshift? So in a little bit, they're going to come on the left. Right there. Robert goes again. I'll look to see who else is coming. Mike S5 is there. That's Mike Weingrad, then James. Then I see Paul. I look, nobody else is there. Boom. I get behind them. And I'm going to go in and I'm planning to attack again. So I go behind them and then the power's off. So I'm going to drift across the yellow line to get up there because I see Dad making a move. This is the fun part now because we got another hill coming. So I'll move to the left here and you're going to see me just go around. When it's soft pedal here, I'll move across the yellow line, see Dad in the distance, and I'm going to go get him. And right here, we'll just move the 3 of us, pull away from everybody. I move up to this guy. I'm coming up on Robert's wheel. Then Dan turned off the power. And I was like, okay, I'm going to attack on this climb here. That's what's on my mind right here. But then Dan pulled to the side and said he was tired as I go through. So I just sat up. The intersection is in the distance. So the power's off. I downshift. That's what you hear. I downshift. So that was fun. A lot of attacks, counterattacks. So there's a bunch of people back there. I mean, once we started to go hard, Scott, Bob, all those guys are back there. And so I go ahead and I will turn right. Then Paul's going to ask me where we're going. Well, this is where we decided, let's just go into the forest. We're feeling good. It's a nice morning. We just made the decision right here to go in the forest. Because Paul likes to go long when he's feeling good. I could tell by his riding that he was feeling good. So we turn around. I turn around here. And I tell him, good ride. We're going to go.
I think we should go left. All right, guys, good ride. We're going to go in the forest.
Because Paul asked where we're going. I told him I think we should go left. So hope you all got a chance to get some K's in. But this is part of what we did on Saturday. Keep those doctors far.